don't think I've ever worked with sequined fabric. And I guess I've just been kind of scared. So today I'm going to use my newest pattern, the Bella frock. It's a very simple, quick pattern, but it's really pretty and it's really great for showcasing an interesting fabric like the one that I got. Let me get it for you. It's like a velvet sequin stretch fabric, and I got this on Amazon, and I just feel like it's perfect for Valentine's Day. I have my Bella frock pattern printed out. I went up a size. Usually I'm an 8, but I cut out a size 10 because this fabric isn't quite 70% stretch, so adding that extra width and height on the pattern is going to fit me a little bit better. So let's cut this out. So I'm a little scared of using my really good scissors on these, so I'm using, this is like a $10 pair, but they're really sharp, and I got them from Home Depot. It's gonna be maybe a little jagged here and there, but this is what I'm gonna use. The actual sequin part is actually a lot narrower than the full width of the fabric, so I have to be careful. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, but I have nowhere near enough. I need at least another yard. Oh my goodness. I'm not getting a very nice cut on the hem, which is okay because we're gonna face the hem. Oh my goodness, yes! We're your dream girl. If you cut out one layer of a pattern, you have to be so careful that you pay attention. You can lay your cutout piece on the fabric, make sure it's mirrored, you know, the right sides are facing, so we're gonna have a mirrored piece. Then just place your fabric, place your pattern piece, and now we know that the pattern piece is in the correct orientation and we can cut. We do not have enough fabric, sadly. These blasted sleeves. So I'm just gonna order another bolt. I'm gonna do that now so that it comes soon. Okay, it's ordered and it's coming tomorrow. Woo! I have to cut out the facings in this. I don't want scratchy sequins against my skin, so this is a Tencel jersey. That will work just perfectly. And I'm also gonna cut strips for the hem so that I can face the hem instead of turning it up. Everything is cut. Now is the time to cut all of the little sequins off the seam area. So I have a 3/8 or 1 centimeter seam allowance for this dress. So I need to clear all the sequins from that area so that my needle doesn't accidentally catch on the sequins. Probably wouldn't break my needle, it's just, we're gonna do this right today, guys. So I'm starting with the front. So I've got to clear away all of this, all of this, all of this, all of this, and then the side seams. So all of these sequins are sewn in. And so instead of cutting the thread, which could lead to more unraveling with wear and tear, I'm going to actually just cut the sequin and then pull it off the thread. So I'm just using an old pair of snips, and then I just pull it off the thread. I've resorted to just cutting the sequin pretty much in half, and then it's a little bit easier. So I think the shoulder is done on this one. So I've got my work cut out for me. I finished the neckline and the sleeves, the armhole I mean. I have to do this to the back and the top of the sleeve. And you know what I thought? Needles can puncture this, but I thought that if I use a thicker, heavier needle on the side seams where I haven't taken away the sequins, then it will work. It is 4:48. I finished around 4:30. So this took me about 2 hours to take all the sequins off the areas that we discussed. And now it is time to sew them together. I do have a very comprehensive, detailed, close-up tutorial of how to sew the Bella frock, so you can follow along with that. What I'm gonna focus on is showing you how to finish and sew together this sequin fabric. Let's get sewing. Usually I use my overlocker to sew a knit garment, but I'd rather break a needle in here than break a needle on my overlocker if it comes to that. It's getting dark and I have to go in 45 minutes, but I can get at least the neckline done before I go. As mentioned earlier, I'm going to use a thicker needle. That way we can mitigate breakage. Oh, I have to do the center back seam. Okay, so we're gonna see real quick if the thicker needle is okay with these sequins. For zigzag, I like to do a width of 3 and a length of 2. Oh, it's working perfectly. Well, that went off without a hitch. Perfect. I'm glad I took away the sequins from the neckline and stuff because it's just going to be so much neater. We have some sequins caught into the seam and that just wouldn't look as nice around the neckline, so my work is not in vain. Okay, so that back seam is done, and now we're gonna do the shoulders. And you can see there's no sequins caught in the seam, so that's perfect. Now the facing, always alternate your seam allowances if you're laying them to one side. Gotta sew around this and then understitch. Okay, now it's time to understitch. Understitching is when you sew the facing to the seam allowance. Sew into the seam allowance on the inside, and we're gonna flip it to the inside. Looking good. Well, I'm really glad that I finished the neckline and it's ready for the sleeve. Hopefully my fabric comes tomorrow like it says it will, and I can finish this tomorrow. I got my fabric on Saturday. I ordered from another supplier, but I think that it matches perfectly, so no difference. So that's good. Okay, let's cut out the other sleeve and get sewing. 2 sleeves done. Just about finished with taking the sequins off. And you can see how there's like the little bit of fuzz along the edge because we removed the sequins. And there's maybe 1 or 2 sequins that kind of got caught in the seam. But for the most part, look at this. Okay, sleeves. I have to sew these together just along the edge. I could not stop myself from trying this on. Let's just say I'm very excited. Right sides together. Let's do it. Oh, my thread is that close to being done. So I think I'm discovering that with a thicker needle, you can just go right through these sequins. So if you want to just go for it and sew up a sequined garment without preparing the seams like I have, you're probably going to be okay. Now I am going to say that with that, for comfortability, you might want to line the garment, but that's up to you. So what I'm going to do is flatten the seam of the sleeve and just fold it over, probably more like 1/2 inch than the 3/8. And then I'm just going to put it in the machine and sew. It looks super ugly on the other side. For this reason, I'm definitely not going to hem the dress like this. Both sleeve hems are done, so now we got to put the elastic in the hems. So the dress is basically done. This fabric is really scratchy inside. So if I'm wearing this out, I'm going to be wearing like a long sleeve under this of some sort. I've got to do the hem, figure out what I'm going to do. I might just leave it. I don't know. I might get rid of just the sequins along the very edge so that they don't fall off and unravel. And then just cut it smoothly because this fabric is jersey. It's not going to fray. Might just leave it like that. We'll see though. I have officially decided what to do with the hem. So I'm going to do as originally planned. Okay, I don't have to remove the sequins along the hem, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew this right sides to the hem without stretching it, and then I'm going to flip it inside, and I think I'm going to hand blind stitch it just so that it looks really neat. I'm not going to be stretching this as I sew. If I do stretch it, that means the hem will just shrink up. First, I'm going to sew two of these together. Use a little piece of paper so it doesn't get chewed up. Starting at the back seam, leave a bit of a tail so that you can put the ends together at the end. We've come to the end. I need a little bit of space between everything. And then I'm going to match it up, do a little notch. Just sew the rest up. Now what we've got to do is fold up the hem. Gonna leave a little bit of like a lip here.
It's down right, boy.
All right, I have the entire hem pinned, and it also struck me that you should probably trim the seam allowance before you do this so that it's just a little bit less bulky. So I threaded a needle and I've doubled the thread. So I'm gonna run this through some beeswax, and this just helps keep it from getting tangled, which is very common. I'm going to go in from the back, pick up a couple threads above it. It doesn't matter as much because you're not going to see it with the pile there. You're not going to be able to see the thread very easily. Okay, this is... pins always get in the way. Okay, there's one stitch, and I'm gonna go every like ½ inch to 1 centimeter. So I'll pick this up and grab centimeter away, pick up right at the same spot, and grab a centimeter away. You guys see the pattern? So then it ends up looking like this, and we can't see it at all on the other side. I finished the first length of thread that was doubled, and it really was getting very tangled, so I'm just gonna do one thread, and that should be good enough. I'm done! Took me about ½ an hour, just no big deal if you can catch up on a show or something. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a light press from the inside so that I hopefully don't ruin any of the sequins. Make sure these are all flat so that I can just do a light press. Yeah, that's good. Perfect. So if you're wondering if you can press a sequined velvet, the answer is yes. For these types of fabrics though, more steam than pressure. I'm gonna even... It's done. Oh my goodness. I am done the dress. Let me give you a quick recap of the things that I learned working with sequins for the first time. So number one is use a less favored pair of scissors when cutting. so that you don't have to worry about dulling your blade. I have some really nice scissors that I like to use. I want to keep them nice and sharp for other fabrics that don't have pieces of plastic on them. Number 2, taking sequins off the seam allowance of visible areas creates a really neat finish. Even though it took some time, taking it off the neckline, the armholes, the shoulders, I feel like it made a really big difference. You don't get sequins sticking out, scratching you along the neck. Number 3, using a heavier needle works really well if you don't want to remove sequins from the seam area. Even though the sequins start to stick out of the seam, that's okay for side seams, a back seam, seams that aren't as visible and that aren't really gonna bug you. Number 4, facings work really nice for these pillowy edges. I'm really glad that I also used a facing for the hem, and that just required cutting a strip of jersey fabric. Number 5, I found out the hard way that I should have probably lined it. Lining it with a nice jersey, that tencel jersey that I was using, would have worked really nicely. I wish I had thought of that before. I just didn't realize how scratchy the fabric was, so pay attention to that. Number 6, a blind stitch goes a long way. The blind stitch along the hem was pretty much indetectable and it looked really nice, so I'm really glad I spent the half hour doing that hand blind stitch because it looked gorgeous. And number 7, sequin velvet can be pressed as long as you press it from the inside, or you could just use some steam, don't use pressure, and that will also help if you have any wrinkles. So I hope you guys feel inspired to work with sequins, and if you have any tips, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Also, the Bella frock, which I'm wearing in a blue velvet, is a super quick sew. It's on sale right now, so you can get it before Valentine's Day. So now is the time to show you the dress in all its glory.